Hey guys, welcome to another video. And in this video, I wanted to review the song Nothing Else by Forrest Frank and Thomas Rhett. And so this song is just really good because it just kind of talks about the importance of being simple and not allowing life to get too complicated, but also finding joy in the simplicity of life. And so I also just love, I feel like I never would have thought I would see the day where Forrest Frank and Thomas Rhett would be doing a collab together. But it's the collab that we didn't know that we needed, as some people would say. And so the way the song starts, they talk about how, this world is always trying to tell me I need more. And so it's crazy how true that is, because if you get on Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube, whatever, whenever you're scrolling through, you're constantly seeing ads. And the way the algorithm is set up is to kind of, it like will listen to your conversations and all those things. So if you're talking to someone about shoes, some, Nikes, whatever, before you know it, you're seeing ads for those shoes. And so it gets hard to not spend money when we're constantly being bombarded with ads. And this is something that I've struggled with for a long time, because I've always gone to the mall or kind of gone shopping as a way to relieve stress. But of course, when you put yourself in that position, you end up seeing all of these things that you want. And so you either end up stressing yourself out, or you're kind of fighting those intuitive, thoughts of buying things, and you're stressing yourself out. And so you end up just kind of adding more stress to your life when, I'm trying to find other ways to kind of, hang out or take care of my mental that don't involve going to the mall. Because that's one thing I've noticed over time is I just end up feeling more stressed out, or I end up feeling almost pressured to spend money. And so then the very next line, they say a bigger house, a couple cars will fill the void. And so it's interesting because with this, it's like this void is, that we feel to buy things. It's because we've been convinced that, the things that we have are never enough. The house that we have isn't big enough because we wish the bedroom was bigger. We wish we had a pantry in the kitchen. We wish, the garage was bigger. And so we get to a point where then we buy that bigger house. Then we buy more stuff to fill the bigger house. Then before we know it, that house doesn't feel big enough. And so then we end up falling victim to lifestyle inflation, where we might be moving up in life in terms of our income, in terms of our job title, but at the same time, our expenses are going up. And so when our expenses are going up, we may still feel either just as poor or even more poor than we did before, because now we're spending more. And so the part where they can say a couple cars will fill the void, it reminds me of how I think we can use things that we like, for example, whether it's cars, whether it's shoes, as an excuse to try to buy as many of that thing as we can, because we try to use the fact that, we just really like cars, so that's why I want to have 4 cars, because I want to have an EV, and then I want to have, a Porsche, but then I want to have a Beamer, and all of these things. And instead of, truly thinking about why it is we're buying these things, we just justify it with, oh no, we just really like cars. Oh, we're car people, and that's why we're buying all of these things. Because for me, for the longest time, it was shoes, where yes, I really love shoes, but I would use that as an excuse to, when I'm stressed out, I should go buy some shoes. Oh, I should go buy, those New Balances, these ones that came out, like all of that. And it was shoes, but it was also clothes. So I'd get stressed out, and of course, Lululemon was one of those places I'd go to, let me go look at their stuff. Let me look at, their clothes fit me really well. Let me just keep buying Lulu. And so I would justify it with, oh no, it's just that I really care about my appearance. That's why I'm buying these shoes. That's why I'm buying the clothes. But then it also starts to subconsciously get to a point where if you start to get compliments on your shoes or compliments on your clothes, now you're starting to feel like, okay, I have to keep up this image that I have good style, that I know what looks good. And so you start to also use that as justification to keep going to the mall, keep buying things. And so I'm trying to unlearn these behaviors now, and I'm trying to get a lot more intentional with the things that I'm buying. And so I'm not just saying, oh, well, I can't buy shoes, I can't buy this, I can't buy that. But at the same time, I'm starting to have a lot more control, where I'm like, okay, if I can go 3 months without buying shoes, I can treat myself to a pair. I can, do that, but it's not like a weekly or a bi-weekly kind of thing that I'm buying shoes. And so then they say, but then I get it and I still feel just as poor. And what I thought about was, how, if anything, you feel even more poor, because especially if you're using credit cards to buy these things and you don't have the money to pay for these things, at the end of the month, now you're carrying a balance. And when you're carrying a balance, that's accruing interest. So now you get to a point where you're stressed out about the credit card balance. You're stressed out about the interest. You're spending more money, becoming even more poor, and becoming even more stressed out in the process. And so that's why I just love that line, because it's just a constant reminder. And that's how I used to be really bad with money, because I would I would oftentimes tell myself, oh, I need to do retail therapy because I had a hard week at school. Oh, because, I'm stressed out. But then not realizing it was that same retail therapy that was stressing me out even more. And so it's interesting when you think about a kind of therapy that's actually doing the opposite of what it's supposed to do. That's making you feel even more burdened than you were going into it. And so, so then they say, so I tell all that to head right out the door. And it talks, and this is, super relevant for me also, because what I'd end up doing, I'd end up buying all these shoes, buying these clothes. And then eventually, let's say in a couple months, I realized, oh, I actually don't wear those shoes that much. I actually don't wear, that shirt as much as I thought I was going to. Then what ends up happening is I end up selling that stuff, whether it's on Poshmark or Plato's Closet or, one of these other, sites at a loss. I end up losing money. Because you end up buying these shoes that are $100 or whatever, and you're selling them now for $30 because it's you've worn them a couple times, they don't look as new, and regardless, they're used. So you know how that goes. It's once you add a used price point to, or a used, tag to anything, the price point drops dramatically. And so I'd written down here, even, I'd written down with iPhones, I'd given that example, where, they were talking about, the world is always telling you that you need more. With iPhones, for example, you might have the iPhone, 14 Pro, and there could be absolutely nothing wrong with your phone. But then you watch the keynote on the iPhone 16 Pro, and before you know it, you're talking yourself into getting that phone when there was absolutely nothing wrong with the current phone that you had. And so that's something I've also tried to be aware of, is trying not to upgrade things for the sake of upgrading them, and not upgrading something unless I absolutely need to. And so then in the next part of the song, they say, because I woke up with a good thing laying by my side. And so this is just an importance of, it reminds me of another one of Forrest Frank's songs. I think it's called Rich Man, where he, I'll probably do a review on that song as well at some point, but he talks about how just having a significant other or your partner by your side is really all you need to feel like you're well off. You don't need to have millions of dollars. You don't need to have all of these things in the bank account to feel fulfilled. And then they talk about, I woke up to some birds singing, hey, look, I'm alive. And this, to me, when I heard that part of the song, it reminded me of just the importance of embracing nature. It reminded me of the importance of going on walks and really just admiring God's creation. really embracing just the green of the plants, of the leaves, of the grass, just really just taking time to be present in nature and take deep breaths and, it's kind of slow down. Because when I was in school, I used to go on those walks after lunch, and I noticed it just helped with my mental health so much. And it's something that I'm trying to do again, where even if I can't do it right after lunch, I'm at least making time, at least a couple times during the week, to really just admire God's creation, to admire architecture, to admire nice homes in your neighborhood, and these things as well. And so then in the next part, they say, I've got my family, Jesus, and my health. And so it really does talk about the importance of family, and talks about, when you have your family by your side, or even if, you don't have necessarily family around anymore, if you have some good friends, if you have a good community at church that's like your family, it's super important to have people like that in your life. Because as human beings, we were made to socialize. We were meant to gather and to, really enjoy being around one another's presence. And so then this also reminded me of how Gary Vee, like I used to watch his videos all the time. And shout out to Gary Vee, but he also talks about the importance of family to him all the time. He talks about the health of his parents being of one of those things that's of the utmost importance to him. So he would talk about how, well, if people are stressed about all of these things that are happening, he looks at it and goes, okay, well, my parents are healthy, my parents are doing well, and so as long as those things are happening, then it's a good day. And I think that really did help to kind of reframe the way that I think about stress, and it helps to really simplify things in a sense as well. And so then right after that, of course, they say, and if I've got all that, then I don't need nothing else. And so it is very true how, as long as we've got family, we've got Jesus, we've got health, these are really the big three and things that we need to feel fulfilled, to feel like, okay, now we don't feel like we need to be chasing, external validation and these things as well. And so then they say, I'm getting sick of endless scrolling on my cell phone. And this also made me think, I feel like this whole song, it's like it was speaking to me. But this part of the song really just reminded me of how I tend to use my phone to fill a void. So whether I'm going to get food and I'm in line, I pull my phone out. I'm checking my email, I'm checking whatever, and I'm just kind of scrolling. And I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, man, I feel like I must check my email like 300 times a day. It feels like almost every 2 minutes I'm just checking it. And this just really isn't good for my mental, because I feel like I've noticed it puts me in this like weird state of like constantly kind of expecting something, where I'm just thinking, okay, did someone email me? Did someone text me? And I'm just constantly checking my phone. And when I'm doing that, I just feel like I'm not able to fully be present in the moment, because I'm sitting here almost feeling like I'm just living my life through a screen. And so then they say, I want to go back to the place I had myself known. And so this is where it just made me think about how we don't really know what to do with ourselves anymore, because we don't really know how to just sit still when we're in public. We don't really know how to wait in line without taking our phone out. And because of that, it's like we just don't know who we are anymore without our phones. Because I think about that sometimes, and I'm like, man, like, God forbid if something happened to my phone or whatever, and I had to go without it for a day or for 2 days or whatever, it's like I would almost go out or go somewhere and not even know what to do with myself, because like that security blanket would be gone. And so yeah, so that was a really cool part of the song. And so then they say, the enemy could try to rob, kill, and destroy, but one thing he cannot take is my joy. And that's very true, because I think when it comes down to your joy is something that's intrinsic. And joy can't be something that you get from your external circumstances. Joy has to be something where you find legitimate joy and satisfaction in the way that your life is going currently. and that there's no amount of, money, there's no number of cars you could buy, or number of shoes you could buy to give you that joy. And so when it comes to joy, it is something that, and that's why gratitude is so important when it comes to, just being able to reflect on things that you're grateful for, things that you do have, instead of focusing your mind on all of the things that you don't have, or all of the things that you would just be so much happier if you could obtain. Finding true peace and finding joy is something that, really is such a game changer, because once you find true gratitude and you find joy, intrinsically, you're not swayed or influenced by external factors. So if you're trying to, get a car by a certain, day or whatever, if you don't get the car, you're not distraught. But of course, you understand that, like, you're still trying to make those things happen. And that's why I think it's important to be extra intentional, because now you put yourself in a space where, okay, you can strive for something, you can try to get these things, but if you don't get it, it's not going to be the end of the world. You're not going to be super sad if you miss out on, I know they're not, dropping anymore, but if you miss out on a Yeezy drop or something like that. And so, yeah, you guys, that's why I just love this song so much, and I hope that you guys love it as well. If you guys stayed for this entire video, I really appreciate you guys. Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and also let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this song. Let me know if you guys listen to Forrest Frank, if you guys listen to Rhett. Let me know what you guys think about the collab, if you guys hope that they do more collabs in the future. But yeah, you guys, that sums it up for this video, and I'll talk to all of you guys in the next one.